I'm on what feels like an endless quest to find the perfect everyday lens and the perfect everyday focal length. Something I could just throw in my bag and be ready to go. My usual zoom lens is great for work, but it's just too bulky to carry with me when I go travel or to document my everyday life. So I've been looking for something smaller and more practical. TTArtisan kindly sent me their 27mm 2.8 to try, but this video is not sponsored and they haven't seen the video beforehand. I've been testing it around Manchester for the last couple of weeks, and today I'm going to show you some images that I took with this lens, and we're going to find out if it's a valid option for travel and everyday shooting. I've always been a zoom lens type of photographer, but I found myself shooting more and more with prime lenses in the last 6 months or so. There are plenty of reasons to switch to prime lenses. They're usually more compact, they really help give you consistency to your work, and sometimes you get way more sharpness and wider apertures. I like getting close in when I shoot, and since I work with still life a lot, I appreciate a focal length that gives me a bit of compression. But lately I've been trying to challenge myself on that. As I look more closely at the work of photographers I admire, I can't help but notice how a lot of these images that I love are shot on wider lenses. Shooting wide is arguably more difficult. There is a lot of element in the frame and everything has to be composed carefully for it to work together. Earlier in the year I took my Context T2 on a trip to Italy and shot exclusively on its 38mm fixed lens. At first I wasn't too sure about it, but at the end I ended up loving the photos and the process. If you think about it, 35mm is very similar to the field of view of the human eyes. So there is something that I really like about taking travel photos the exact same way that I see the world. I've used a 35mm prime before, but I always felt like it's not quite tight enough, yet not wide enough either. And that's how I landed on the 27mm, which is the equivalent to 40mm full frame for us Fujifilm shooters. There are a few options when it comes to 27mm lenses for Fujifilm. There is the famous Fujifilm 27mm 2.8 that I would love to try at some point. But I got to try the TTArtisan one first, just to make sure that it's a focal length that I'm actually gonna use enough to justify the Fujifilm ones. The price of the TTArtisan is about a quarter of the Fujifilm 27mm, which feels like a good option and reasonable option if you're like me and you're not quite ready to commit. The main reason why I like this lens is probably for the pancake size, and it's probably the thinnest lens I own. I'm so used to bulky, heavy gear, so this little thing kind of blows my mind. It looks a tiny bit silly on the XH2, but I bet that on XT4, XT5 it will look even better and it will make a very good practical kit. I really enjoy taking this lens with me in walks in Manchester for the last few weeks. It fits in any bag if you want to change lenses, and it doesn't really draw any attention, even on a bigger body like the XH2. Design-wise, it's obviously an affordable lens, so you can't really expect anything fancy. It says online that it's full metal, but I'm not too sure about that. It just doesn't feel as premium as other lenses. What really surprised me though, and not in a positive way, was the aperture ring. It's really stiff and I almost need 2 hands to change aperture, which is a bit weird. But maybe it's the lack of my upper body strength. Okay, now let's talk about the juicy stuff, which is the image quality. I had very low expectations in terms of image quality, mainly because when I tried the 35mm compared to the 35mm XC, I wasn't really impressed with the image quality. The colors weren't as rich as I'm used to and the vignette was strong. But that's just me, I'm not really into the whole lens with character thing. Knowing that, I was already expecting the vignetting and the halo effect that TTArtisan lenses are known for, so I stopped down the lens to f8 and that really helped. It's been super sunny in Manchester, so I was a bit worried about flare, which can get very bad with these third-party lenses. I decided to try on some interiors and I was actually pretty happy with how the photos turned out. I got lucky with a lot of light coming through, so I could shoot f8 and avoid the vignette. For this one shot, I left it at f2.8, and yeah, the vignette was pretty heavy, but I fixed it easily in Capture One. Looked like it was never there. They're never as accurate as Fuji lenses, and it always gives this faded, washed out look. I had to look a bit harder in the edit, but at the end I was happy with how the photos turned out. And by the way, I also sell my film-inspired presets, which I use on my own photos. If you're looking for a base for your edits, it's a nice way to support the channel too. I genuinely have nothing bad to say about the autofocus. It's reliable, it's fast, and it gets the job done. So who is this lens for? I think it's the perfect lens for everyday use, if you want to document your life, or if you're going on a trip and you don't have a lot of space in your bag. It's also a good option if you don't have a big gear budget and you're not totally sure you're gonna like this focal length. With that being said, the low price comes with its limitations, like the heavy vignette, wider apertures, and long contrast. Personally, I wouldn't use this lens for paid work or if I'm planning to print the photos I'm gonna shoot. I really enjoyed shooting at 27mm, and I'm definitely curious to try more lenses in this focal length. The Fuji version is next on my list. Also, I'm working on a new website that will have a blog where I'm gonna share gear and stuff, all those things that are not gonna end up in videos. So if you don't wanna miss that, please consider subscribe to my newsletter, link down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe because it really helps my small channel. And if you use this lens, or you're planning to buy it, or if you've used the Fuji lens or the German one, please let me know in the comments. I'm always curious to know everyone's experiences, and yeah, I'll see you next week.